Okay folks, buckle up, because today on the Mysteria Archive we delve into a really weird one, the hollow moon. Yes, hollow. And this is one of my favourites, so get ready for a wild ride. What if I told you the moon, yes, our moon, isn't a lifeless rock floating through space, but a hollow shell, a machine, maybe even a surveillance device? Now, I get it. That sounds like the plot of a bad sci-fi movie, but here's the thing. Some of the weirdest, most persistent anomalies about the moon, they are not science fiction. They're recorded by NASA. Why does the moon ring like a bell when struck? Why do ancient civilizations talk about a time before the moon? And why, despite all our tech, have we never gone back? Well, buckle up, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see the night sky forever. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Here we go, another guy claiming the moon is a Death Star. But hang tight. We're not talking about lizard people or tinfoil hats here. We're talking about legit anomalies, some even backed by NASA data. It's like if Neil Armstrong had come back and said, yeah, it was great, except for the part where the moon rang like a church bell and then it whispered my name. No, seriously. Now this theory's got layers, and once we start peeling them back, things get really weird. So let's dive in. The official story, what science says about the moon. Alright, let's start with the basics. The version they teach in schools. According to mainstream science, the moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago after a Mars-sized planet slammed into Earth. The debris from that impact eventually coalesced into the moon. Today, the moon is tidally locked, meaning we always see the same face, and it's considered geologically inactive. It's made mostly of rock and dust, and its density is low compared to the Earth's. Seismometers placed by Apollo missions suggest it has a solid crust, a possible mantle, and a small core. NASA, JAXA, and the ESA all agree. The moon is a natural satellite, orbiting Earth in a completely stable way. Nothing to see here, right? Well, maybe not. Because the more we study the moon, the more precise our instruments become, the more data starts to whisper something's off. So far, nothing too crazy, right? Big rock hits Earth, moon forms, astronauts play golf, end of story. But here's the thing, science likes things that make sense, and the moon, it doesn't. Its orbit is too perfect, its mass is too low. And the whole we only ever see one side thing, that's kind of creepy if you really think about it. It's like the moon's showing us its good side on purpose. If this were a Tinder profile, it would be a red flag. Lunar Anomalies 101, why the moon makes no sense. Here's where it gets strange. Unlike most moons in our solar system, Earth's moon is huge in relation to its planet. It's perfectly positioned to block out the sun during a solar eclipse, an astronomical coincidence that scientists can't fully explain. Then there's its orbit, nearly circular, unusually stable, and always locked to Earth so that only one side is ever visible. But the real kicker, its density. The moon is about 60% as dense as Earth. That's unusually low, so low in fact, that some researchers have speculated it could be partially hollow. Seismic data from the Apollo missions also suggest internal cavities or layers that don't behave like a solid planetary body. Add it all up, and the moon starts to look less like a natural object and more like something that was placed there, not born, positioned. Alright, I'm not saying the moon is a parking garage for alien SUVs, but the math is kinda sus, right? It's like ordering a pizza and then finding out it's perfectly shaped to fit your dinner plate, and it glows at night, and it's watching you. There's just too many coincidences. And whenever you stack that many coincidences together, it starts to look like design, or at the very least, intentional weirdness. And trust me, we're only just scratching the surface, or should I say, the shell. Apollo 11. What did NASA really discover on the moon? We all remember that grainy footage. Neil Armstrong stepping onto the lunar surface in 1969. One small step for man, and so on. But here's what most people don't know. Apollo 11 didn't just leave boot prints. It may have uncovered something far stranger. Let's fast forward to Apollo 12. NASA deliberately crashed part of the lunar module onto the moon's surface. seismometers picked up something unexpected. The moon rang like a bell for nearly an hour. And when Apollo 13's upper stage hit the moon, the reverberation lasted over 3 hours. Now, some scientists say that this is just due to the moon's dry, rigid structure, but others suggest it points to something hollow. NASA's own seismic readings hinted at a low-density crust, shallow mantle, and an interior that doesn't behave like a solid body. But the anomalies didn't stop there. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong allegedly experienced radio blackouts during key parts of their mission. NASA called them signal losses, but amateur radio operators claimed they heard something else, whispers of classified chatter, even mention of structures on the moon's far side. Then there's the wild card, the conspiracy that Stanley Kubrick helped fake the moon landing. Not because we didn't go, but because we found something we couldn't show. Oh, and by the way, we've never landed on the far side, even now, over 50 years later. So here's the question. Did Apollo 11 discover a barren rock, or did they find a shell? Okay, pause. Now imagine you throw a rock at a wall and it rings like Big Ben for 3 hours. Now, that's not just weird, that's haunting. And sure, NASA says it's normal seismic activity for the moon. But when your billion-dollar science experiment starts sounding like a tuning fork from space, you ask more questions. And then the blackouts, the mystery transmissions, the rumors of alien structures. Now, if this were a movie, that's the part where the general says, cut the feed. Now, I'm not saying there are aliens inside the moon, but if there were, would NASA really tell us? Also, can we talk about how we've had dozens of missions to Mars, but we stopped going back to the moon in 1972? It's like they got there, saw something, and went, nope, we are out. Anyway, take that all in. We're just getting started, so buckle up. Myths of a moonless Earth. Let's rewind. Way before NASA, before science, before telescopes. Because here's something you never hear in school. Multiple ancient cultures describe a time when there was no moon. The Zulu of South Africa have oral traditions that say the moon was brought here, intentionally, by two brothers. The Greeks spoke of a pre-lunar time when Arcadia thrived beneath twin suns. Even early Sumerian and Bolivian legends reference celestial changes, as if the moon wasn't always hanging in the sky. What makes these stories strange isn't just that they exist, it's that they come from cultures that never interacted. How would people on separate continents, without the internet or telescopes, all remember a time before the moon? Was it just myth, or were they recalling something real, something that happened so long ago it passed into legend? And if the moon was brought here, who brought it? Because rocks don't just decide to park themselves in perfect orbit, but maybe ships do. All right, picture this. You're a caveman. You're hunting. Fire's crackling, everything's chill. And then suddenly, boom, there's a giant glowing orb in the sky that wasn't there yesterday. And what do? Well, you write a story about it. You carve it into a rock. You start a religion. Because something that big, that sudden, it's not just astronomy, it's a message. And the fact that cultures from completely different hemispheres all remembered a moonless past, that's not just coincidence, that's suspicious. And maybe the moon didn't form. Maybe it just arrived. Artificial origins. Could the moon be a construct? In 1970, two Soviet scientists, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, dropped in a theory so wild it made the Kremlin blush. They asked, what if the moon is an artificial satellite built by an ancient intelligence? According to them, the moon's shell might be made of ultra-durable materials like titanium. Its internal structure? Hollow chambers. Reinforced walls, possibly even engines. Now, before you roll your eyes, let's remember this isn't YouTube crackpottery. This was published in a scientific journal. And the data does back some of this up. The moon's density is bizarrely low. Its surface is unusually hard in places, making crater depths shallower than expected. And it has a curious habit of withstanding massive impacts, like it's armored. Then there's its perfect rotation. The moon doesn't spin like a random rock. It's tidally locked, always showing the same face. And its orbit? Practically a perfect circle, almost too perfect. It all adds up to a question we can't shake. Is the moon a fluke of nature or an artifact of design? Let's lay this one out loud. The moon might be a spaceship. There, it's out. Now, look, I'm not saying Darth Vader's in there playing cards with E.T., but seriously, titanium shell, hollow chambers, perfect orbit. Now, if this were an episode of Star Trek, Spock would be like, "Captain, I detect artificial construction." And the Soviets weren't exactly known for trolling. If they published this, they believed it, or they wanted someone else to. The bottom line, if this thing was built, it wasn't just built to look pretty in the night sky, it was built to do something, and that might be what we're just starting to figure out. The Dyson Sphere connection, cosmic engineering or alien tech? Let's take a step back, or actually way out, into deep space. In 1960, physicist Freeman Dyson proposed a wild idea. If a civilization became advanced enough, like Type 2 on the Kardashev scale, they might build a megastructure around a star to harness all of its energy, a Dyson Sphere. Now, here's where it gets weird. Some researchers suggest the moon could be a fragment, relay station, or anchor node from such a system. Why? Because the moon has the hallmarks of engineered design. It's hollow, or at least suspiciously underdense. It has a perfect orbit. It's incredibly stable, and it's placed in a position that just so happens to enable perfect solar eclipses. Coincidence or calibration? Some go even further, suggesting the moon is a shell world, a type of artificial construct theorized in astrophysics. Think of it like a Dyson outpost, a self-contained hub watching, measuring, or even manipulating conditions on Earth. And if the moon isn't orbiting us, what if we're orbiting it? Okay, so let me get this straight. There's a theory that we're living next to a cosmic USB stick from a Type 2 civilization. I mean, cool, terrifying, but cool. Now, seriously though, when you start thinking of the moon not just as a natural object, but as tech, as leftover from some ancient galactic power play, it reframes everything. That weird silence, the orbital perfection, the odd echoes, maybe it's not just coincidence, maybe it's a design spec. Also, if the moon is a fragment of a Dyson sphere, well, who forgot to pick it up? Residual evidence. Is there proof the moon is artificial? So, what's the evidence? If the moon is artificial, there should be residue, leftovers, scraps of a reality that doesn't match the one we're told to believe. And guess what? There just might be. Let's start with seismic anomalies. Apollo mission data revealed reverberations that lasted for hours. Again, the infamous moon rang like a bell phenomenon. Solid rock doesn't do that. Then there are strange internal readings, suggestions of vast empty chambers, inconsistent density levels, and unexplained anomalies beneath the crust. But here's where it gets more cloak and dagger. Some scientists claim that parts of this data were misreported or withheld, that government agencies, both in the US and the former Soviet Union, quietly stopped investigating certain seismic events on the moon. And why? Because some believe they already knew the answer, and they didn't want to talk about it. There's even talk of classified photos, internal documents, and audio from the Apollo missions that disappeared or were redacted from public archives. In short, if the moon is artificial, someone might have found out and buried the proof. Let's be honest, if NASA found a giant metal hatch on the moon, would they really live stream it? Well, probably not. They'd smile, nod, cut the feed, and call someone whose name is just a number. And yeah, some of the so-called evidence might be circumstantial or flat out misinterpreted. But when you've got seismic data and disappearing records and government silence, that's a little too many red flags for comfort. Also, if you ever want to get kicked out of a dinner party, just say, "I think the moon is a machine and the data was suppressed." It works every time. Surveillance control or ancient tech? Here's something most people don't think about. The moon never turns its back on us. Literally, it's tidally locked, meaning the same side always faces Earth. Now, science says that's just orbital physics, but what if it's intentional? Some theories suggest that the moon's fixed gaze isn't just coincidence, it's surveillance, a planetary observation platform. Think of it like a celestial security camera that's been watching Earth for a millennia. And the legends back it up. Ancient cultures describe sky gods, lunar watchers, and glowing eyes in the night that could see all. Some believe the moon plays a stabilizing role, geophysically and geopolitically. But if it's not just stabilizing tides, what else is it stabilizing? If the moon is an artificial object, then its rotation, placement, and unwavering gaze may not be about balance at all, but about control, or worse, containment. What if the moon isn't just here to observe? What if it's here to make sure we never leave? So, the moon's basically the ultimate nosy neighbor. Just hovering, watching, never blinking, creepy, right? I mean, imagine you had a roommate who always faced you, slept facing you, ate cereal, still facing you. You'd move out immediately. But the moon, we just let it do its thing. And maybe it's just physics, or maybe it's Sky Alexa, monitoring, recording, waiting for us to step out of line. And hey, if this is a cosmic surveillance device, I hope the aliens like binge watching the Kardashians, because that is our legacy now. Final theory. The moon as a simulation anchor or reboot mechanism. Okay, now we're heading into mind-bending territory. Some researchers and a growing number of theorists believe the moon isn't just a machine, it's part of the architecture of reality itself. They call it a simulation anchor. Here's the idea. If we live in a simulated reality, a cosmic program if you will, then the moon might be a hard drive, a stabilizer, or even a control node. Think of it as the server rack for Earth's operating system. Some say it's why cataclysms follow lunar cycles, why civilizations seem to rise and fall on a loop. What if the moon is the reboot switch, a failsafe? Every few thousand years, reset, rerun, repeat. It could also explain missing history, timeline shifts, and yes, even some Mandela effects. If the moon glitches, does our reality fracture? So, if the moon really is a machine, maybe it's not here for us to explore. Maybe it's here to run us. So, what you're telling me is the moon is the server room for the Matrix. Cool, totally normal, no big deal. But seriously, what if it is a control device? I mean, have you ever tried turning the Earth off and on again? Maybe that's what the moon is for. And now that we're poking around up there again, what happens if we press the wrong button? Reboot Earth 1.0. Cue spinning hourglass in the sky. What if the moon is the key to everything? So, let's step back. If the moon is hollow, if it's artificial, if it was placed here on purpose, then it's not just part of our sky, it's part of the system. Maybe it's a machine, maybe it's a megastructure, maybe it's watching, or maybe it's waiting. Because one day it might not just hang there, it might activate. And when it does, we'd better be ready to find out who built it and what it was built to do. All right, now that's some bedtime story. Is the moon a machine, a surveillance device, a cosmic USB? Or maybe it's all of that, or maybe none of that. Maybe it really is just a rock. But let's be honest, when something rings like a bell, never turns around, and seems way too perfect to be random, you've got to ask some questions. And maybe, just maybe, the moon's not just a bright light in the sky. Maybe it's the biggest clue we've all been ignoring all this time. Now, go outside tonight, look up, and try not to blink first. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And a big thank you to all the subscribers recently. Thank you very much. Let me know in the comments below of mysteries you'd like to see covered. And don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. It's free and really helps out our small channel. Okay, friends, until next time, stay curious.